Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing one. What's the world going on?
Hey, can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay, testing, testing. You hear me now? If okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right, sis, come on up. I was hearing you, sis. It was me. It was me. Sis, come on up. I was hearing you, sis. All right, all right. Peace, peace. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining on Thursday night, featuring Sister Latorya G. Um,
Me?
yeah, yeah, I hear you. Uh, what did I just do? Hold on. Why does this thing keep doing the speaker? Why does this thing keep giving me this garbage? Group discussion. Get out of here. Delete. Yes. Delete. Speaker view. Media view. Get out of here. Delete. Speaker view. I wonder why I keep giving me this garbage. All right, here we go. Hold on. All right, here we go. No, I keep giving me that. All right, shalom, shalom. Thank you for joining me. I had a little technical difficulty, so we here, sis. Peace, peace. Sister Latoya.
Yeah, I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
All right, yeah, 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 yeah. We hear you. All right. We're gonna go ahead on to move forward. You go ahead and open up, sis. I got to clear up some stuff on this computer real quick.
Okay. So like it's gonna be kind of like it was last week. Y'all remember how last week we probably should have did last week this week, right? Because it's Juneteenth. I don't know who else celebrates that. That's a whole nother story. But so like for this week, we wanted to kind of look over the actual land, right? Because there's a lot of people that when they read the Bible, they just automatically they tune out names. They from someone physically, and they definitely tune out the descriptions of the land masses, right? And because everyone tunes these things out, that's how you can do things like be walking on holy land every day and not even know it, right? So today we just want to kind of just like take a look into the land. All right. I don't know if you want me to start, but I can.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Um,
Go ahead.
okay. So we're gonna be all over y'all because we're gonna be describing like the land, not just. Hmm?
No, no, I'm getting my mic set. Go ahead.
Okay. Not we're not gonna be just looking at. It's not gonna be just Israel, y'all. We're gonna be looking at the whole landmass and the surrounding areas, and then we're gonna be looking at other landmasses as well, right? Kind of comparing. So let's start off with Ezekiel 20 and 6, right? It says, "In the day that I lifted up my hand unto them to bring them forth of the land of Egypt into a land that I had espied for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of our land." So the Creator says He espied this land for them, right? And that does match Deuteronomy, right? When He says He created the bounds of Adam, you know, He had Israel in mind, right? And I'm not, I'm not looking at that exact scripture, but y'all know what I'm talking about. So also, if you go to Deuteronomy 11 and 12, He backs this, right? He backs this in Deuteronomy 11 and 12, and He says, "A land." Wait, I'll start at verse 10, right? It says, "For the land whether thou goest to possess it is not as the land of Egypt, from whence ye came out, where thou sowest thy seed and waterest it with thy foot as a garden of earth. But the land whither you go to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and drinketh water of the rain of heaven." So it drinks water of the rain of heaven, right? It rains a lot, right? "A land which the Lord thy God careth for. The eyes of the Lord thy God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even until the end of the year." That's why it's important, because like that landmass, He just told you He has spied it for them, and His eyes are always on it from the beginning until the end, right? He pays, he sees everything, but He has a deeper like viewpoint. He looks deeper into that landmass, right? For His people are there, His covenant is there, His name is there, for many reasons, right? Also, if you go to Ezekiel 5:5, right? Ezekiel 5:5, it says, "Thus said the Lord God, this is Jerusalem. I have set it in the midst of the nations and countries that are round about her." So Jerusalem is center stage, y'all. This landmass, Jerusalem, He said that in the midst of the nations, right? In the midst means in the midst of, the middle of, right? And His eyes are always on it. And I mean, if you know what this landmass truly is, right? Which we believe that America is the true old world, right? We believe that the promised land can be found in America. So you will know our eyes are always on this landmass, right? 24/7. If you go to Genesis 13 and 10, right? Genesis 13 and 10. So it's talking about Lot, you know, and it's talking about, so I started verse 9. It's talking about Abraham and Lot, right? Well, it was Abram at that time when him and Lot was separated. Verse 9, "Is it not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left." This is Abram and Lot talking, right? "And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere. Before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest into Zoar."
So,
So it's telling, okay, what you
so,
saying?
what you saying that the land where Abraham and Lot was, that was well watered?
Yes. Yeah, well watered, and it was the created land that he had spied for them, and His eyes are always on it.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm listening.
All right. Then also, right, just another example. If you go to Isaiah 36 and 17, right? Isaiah 36 and 17, it says, this is like when they were coming to Hezekiah, right? One moment. This is when my phone. This is when Assyria was coming to Hezekiah. They wanted to take over the southern kingdom, right? Y'all know they got the northern kingdom, but they wanted the southern kingdom too. So just kind of when he was kind of describing, I'm just picking out this one part where he was describing the land, right? So if you go to verse 16, it says, "Hearken not to Hezekiah, but thus said the king of Assyria, make an agreement with me by a present, and come out to me, and eat ye every one of his vine, and every one of his fig tree, and drink ye every one of the waters of his own crystal, until I come and take you away to a land like your own, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards." So there was other lands too. It wasn't just the promised land. Surrounding lands too were like lands flowing with milk and honey, right? We're gonna look at that, you know. It was that whole land mass, right?
So
Um,
hold on. So The whole. So you telling me the whole continent was the milk and honey, or just a particular spot?
It seemed like the whole continent was like that. I mean, now the promised land was known as the land of milk and honey, but that might have just, I mean, but again, that was the creator talking to Israel, right? So he's telling them that, you know, that this is your own land, what it's like. But I mean, I'm pretty sure the other countries felt that way too, that was surrounding them.
Okay, okay, okay.
If you like Second Kings 18:32, back to the story I just read, where Assyria, the king of Assyria, is talking to Hezekiah, verse 32. Until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive oil and of honey, that you may live and not die, and hearken unto Hezekiah when he persuaded you, saying the Lord will deliver us, right? So, I mean, there were other lands too that had those same spices and elements, right? That was surrounding the promised land. And then this next verse, y'all, is very key because then we finna go into the actual elements, right? So this is just a backdrop on the importance of the land. But if you go to Deuteronomy 8 and 9, right? Deuteronomy 8 and 9, it says, this is the creator, this is them describing the promised land, right? So I'll start at verse 7. For the Lord thy God bringeth thee into a land of brooks, of water, of fountains, and depths that spring out of valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey. Now that verse right there is the whole conversation because people get into it. They call it like the seven spices of the land, right? That's what they call it, right? Then verse 9, a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness. Thou shalt not lack anything in it. A land whose stones are iron and whose hills thou mayest dig grass. So look, verse 9 jumps out at me because that word scarceness, right? Remember that word scarceness, y'all. Remember that word scarceness because he's saying this land, you're going to eat bread without scarceness and you're not going to lack anything in it, right? So keep that in mind. You're not going to lack anything in it. It's not going to be no scarceness there, right? So with that being said, let's look into like the trees, right? So what kind of trees do they have like on these lands, right? Um let's say Numbers 24 and 6, right? Numbers 24 and 6. We're not going to go into every single tree, but we're just going to go into like the most iconic ones, right? Numbers 24 and 6. Well, I started verse 5. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel. So he's talking about the tents and tabernacles of Jacob and Israel, right? Jacob, Israel. Verse 6. As the valleys are they spread forth, as gardens by the river's side, as the trees of line aloes which the Lord hath planted, and as cedar trees beside the waters. The cedar trees are beside the waters, right? It's well watered. And just keep that in mind, cedar trees, right? Because, like, you know, with cedar trees, y'all, they're going to try to tell you the cedar trees are over there. And if you Google right off and ask about cedar trees, they're going to just give you Middle Eastern history and stuff like that. Might give you a little bit of African history, right? But let's just really look at the cedar trees, right? Let's go to Isaiah 20, well, Isaiah 2 and 13. Isaiah 2 and 13, it says, um, well, this is kind of like he's talking about the day of the Lord. If you look at verse 12, for the day of the Lord of hosts shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty, and upon everyone that is lifted up he shall be brought low, and upon all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, and upon all the oaks of Bashan. So the cedar trees of Lebanon are high and lifted up. Keep that in mind. They're very high and they're lifted up, right? Then go to Hosea 14 and 6, right? Hosea 14 and 6. It says, well, start at verse 5. I will be as the dew unto Israel. He shall grow as the lily and cast forth his roots as Lebanon. His branches shall spread, and his beauty shall be as the olive tree, and his smell as Lebanon. Lebanon was known for their smell, right? The smell of those trees, right? Same as if you go to Songs of Solomon, right? Songs of Solomon 4:11. It says, "Thy lips, O my spouse, drop as the honeycomb. Honey and milk are under thy tongue, and the smell of thy garments is like the smell of Lebanon." It was supposed to be like it was known for smell, its aroma, right? Second Chronicles 2:8. Second Chronicles 2:8. It says, "Send me also cedar trees, fir trees, algum trees out of Lebanon, for I know thy servant can skill to cut timber in Lebanon, and behold, my servant shall be with thy servants," right? So, of course, they were talking about building a house for the name of the Lord, but it was telling you the different trees there, right? Um, Now, interesting enough, right? I'm gonna just give y'all this little interesting enough. Now, if you Google, they're gonna tell you the trees, and they're gonna tell you those trees are over there. But when you actually look up the biggest trees in the world, the ones that actually fit that description, the most what you would call like majestic trees in the world, it says that 1 second. Cedar trees, specifically true cedars, are native to mountainous regions in the Mediterranean and Himalayas, right? Various species are also found in North America. So that's what Google is going to tell you. It tries to backplay North America and make it look like, yeah, it's found over there in the Mediterranean and stuff like that, right? It backdrops North America, right? But when you actually look into cedar trees, I'm going to just get straight to it. For one, you got to know that cedar trees are found all throughout the United States, right? All throughout the United States, even on the East Coast, right? But the largest cedar tree in the world, specifically western red cedars, are found in the Pacific Northwest region of North America, particularly in the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State. So in Washington State and Canada, in those places like that, they have the biggest cedar trees in the world. They have the cedar trees of Lebanon. And they also have the temperature, and y'all know they got the climate for it, because y'all know how the climate is up there. You know, it's always rainy, it's always cold, it's that crisp air. Y'all know, like, does that sound like anything that's Middle Eastern, to say the least?
No.
And then another tree, before I get out of the tree section, y'all, I just want to bring up another tree. If you go to Genesis 6:14, right? Because this is going to be the only time you see this tree mentioned in the Bible. It says, it's talking about Noah and the ark, right? And it says, "Make thee an ark of gopher wood." This verse 14. "Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch." So they made the ark of gopher wood, y'all. And it's only mentioned one time in the Bible. And if you look up gopher wood, they will try to tell you that nobody knows what gopher wood is, and it's probably a form of a cedar tree, right? But if you actually look up gopher wood, and I'm trying to put up the article ad, but gopher wood is only found in Georgia and Florida, if you look it up. Ain't I correct on that, your code?
Yes, it's found in South Georgia, North Florida.
Yes, y'all can look that up. The wood that they made to build Noah's Ark is only found in Georgia and Florida. But then they'll tell you on Google, no one knows where that wood is at, right?
Well, they're just trying to make it look like it's just a regular cedar tree.
Yeah. So that's just giving a little backdrop on the trees, right? But now, y'all, let's kind of look into like the seasons, right?
Well, hold on,
So let's.
hold on.
Mm-hmm.
But in the scripture says just to go to the fruity the fruit of the land. You know, the when you was into the part of the land dealing with the milk and honey. Now Israel got the promised land, correct?
Yeah.
And that was the land of milk and honey, right?
Yeah.
But I got a question. Was Israel the only one that got the best part of the land, or was that Shem's lineage?
it seemed to be Shem's lineage, and even some of Ham when you think about it, because I mean Egypt had good land too.
Yes, but the land of Shinar, which includes Syria, I got it up on the screen. Now it says it's an ancient region often associated with Mesopotamia, particularly the southern part, which includes parts. They tell you that's Iraq, right? But that's not Iraq. It's not Iraq. Um, Hold on. Let me pull this back up because I have it right here. Shinar. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. Shinar. It says Shinar is a fertile land. Fertile. See, in the southern region of Mesopotamia, known for its rich alluvial soil and ideal environment for early agricultural practices. So that means Shinar, that Assyria was a part of, was a fertile land. It had rich soil. So if you think about it, that almost sounds like the land of milk and honey, because you can plant. You understand what I'm saying? You can plant in it. The soil was so rich that you can plant in it.
Yep.
And remember, Shem got the best part of the earth. Not saying that the other parts of the earth wasn't, this or that, but Shem had got the best part of the earth. The best. So that means wherever Shem's lineage, inheritance are, that's the best part of they're going to live on the best part of the earth. I just want to kind of bring that out because everybody get caught on Israel, but it's not just Israel who got the best part of the earth. It was Shem's lineage that got the best part of the earth as well. So all Shem's sons got good, you know what I'm saying, good portions where they can live on it. I digress.
I agree. Yeah, because that's what we're gonna see. It was the whole landmass. I mean, probably too. It wouldn't just be. You probably can't imagine it being like that one little part where Israel had the good land and everywhere around it ain't nothing. So like where does the land cut off at where it stopped being good?
Right.
Um, so I want to kind of like look into the seasons, and I don't know, it's a lot. So I'm like,
You good?
so y'all know, like,
go ahead.
With the seasons in the Bible, so they don't necessarily say like, they may not say fall and autumn and stuff like that in the Bible. Like if you go to Genesis 8:22, right? 1 second. All right. If you go to Genesis 8:22, it says, while the earth remained seed time and harvest time, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. So notice you don't really see them say fall, or spring. So like the heat would be like the summer. They would say summer, but you have the very beginning of summer, which we would call spring in today's language, right? We would call it spring. The first part of winter we would call fall, right? So, but just keep in mind, they're going to describe it kind of differently, right? So just keep this in mind, because we're describing the conditions that make up the elements. And this is why this matters, right? So let's go to Psalms 32 and 4. I'll just kind of give like one example of each. So summer, Psalms 32 and 4. For the day and night thy hand was heavy upon me. My moisture is turned into the drought of summer. Let you know in the summertime they could be experiencing drought like conditions, right? You would think that's more so like in the later part of the summer, right? Probably doing like the wheat harvest. We're gonna kind of look at that, right? But also you have Micah 7 and 1. Woe is me, for I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the great gleanings of the vintage. There is no cluster to eat. My soul desired the first ripe fruit. So you think of summer fruits, right? So you think of gathering, right? Harvest. Um, if you go to Proverbs 10 and 5, this is a good example right here, y'all. Proverbs 10 and 5. It says, he that gathered in summer is a wise son, but he that sleepeth in harvest is a son that causeth shame. You're supposed to gather in the summer, right? You're supposed to actually reap the harvest, right? Because that means you planted. When it was during the cold months, when it was plowing, that means you planted, right? Let's look at now this is important. Let's look at Jeremiah 5 and 24. And I'm gonna kind of put it together. I'm just kind of giving different verses, letting the Bible describe like the conditions of these like things, right? So Jeremiah 5 and 24. Neither say they in their heart, let us now fear the Lord our God that giveth rain, both the former and the latter rain in his season. He reserveth unto us the appointed weeks of the harvest. You get your weeks of the harvest by the former and the latter rain, right?
That's right.
In the fall, you get the former rain. That's when you do your planting and your sowing. But in the springtime, you get your latter rain. That's when you get the it needs to ripen, and that way you can gather and pluck through the summer, right? This is important because we're actually gonna look at a story about the king, about Israel asking for a king that relates to this, right? Um, so let's look at let's look at the winter, right? Should I go there? Okay, let's look at winter right quick before I go there, right? Winter. Songs of Solomon 2:11. Songs of Solomon 2:11, right? It says, for lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. That's the former rain during the winter. That's the rain that's coming down on the things that you planted and you sowed, right? So also, let's look at Proverbs 20 and 4. The sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg and harvest and have nothing. That's key. In the cold, you plow, you plant. And in the summertime, you harvest, you gather. Keep that in mind, right? So look, y'all, it is Juneteenth, and I kind of just wanted to tie this in there. I ain't want to go too much off subject, but I want to kind of tie it into it, right? Because Juneteenth's supposed to be the day that they free the slaves, right? And it's kind of going off topic, but we talking about the harvest, and we talking about the harvest and gathering and planting, right? So I want to show y'all some curses with that, right? Go to Deuteronomy. Let's say, where should I start with this? Okay, I'm gonna start right here. Let's go to Deuteronomy 1 and 24, right? Deuteronomy 1 and 24. So this is talking about Israel exploring the land when the Creator sent them in to spy and explore the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey, and they were supposed to come back and give a good report, right? So Deuteronomy 1 and 24. Keep this in mind. And they turned and went up to the mountain and came into the valley of Eshcol and searched it out. And they took of the fruit of the land in their hands and brought it down unto us and brought us word again and said, it is a good land, which the Lord our God will give it us, right? So this is for Israel, and it's talking about Israel going into the land, right? But I'm gonna bring up something else, y'all. Don't forget we be going over Genesis 9:27 with Japhet dwelling in the tents of Shem, right? And this is pretty much the protocol that they all do when they come in and take your land. Even Israel did it when they took the land of Canaan. You go in, you send spies, you check out the land, and you come back and give the product back to the people back in your native land so they can see that this place is worth taking over, right? So keep that in mind. Keep in mind Japhet dwelling in the tents of Shem, right? And keep in mind we is saying this is the promised land. So let's think about the whole Christopher Columbus story, right? And them coming over here. So they come over here, right? They scout your land. They see you have certain food. We're gonna get into the foods. They see you have certain plants, right? And then what do you get? Deuteronomy 28, right? Deuteronomy 28:48 is one of them. Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. The Creator said he gonna send your enemies at you in hunger and thirst and want of all things, right?
That's right.
You go to Deuteronomy 28:18, right? It tells you that curse shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land and the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. Curse, it could be from the weather, the lack of rain, or it could be from them taking your land, right? Because when you look through the curses show them taking your land. The fruit, verse 33, Deuteronomy 28:33, the fruit of thy land and thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed away. So keep that in mind, because the day Juneteenth, right? Now keep in mind, I don't want to it's kind of going off, but Jacob had brought this up before about the famine. There was a famine in Europe, y'all, before they came over here. And let me see if I can find it. All right, here. The Great Famine of 1315 to 1317 was the first of a series of large-scale crises that struck parts of Europe early in the 14th century. Most of Europe was affected. These people were going through famines. They were in hunger and thirst and want of all things. And they came over here. And Christopher Columbus did Deuteronomy 124. That's not Hebrew Israelite. But I'm telling y'all, this is the protocol that everybody uses, even if you're not Israel. All the nations use the same protocol when they want to take your land. They come in and search it out and get the fruits and stuff, right? They came over here. They got up your food. We finna take a look at it. We're going to be looking into corn. They got up all your good food and your fruits and stuff, right? And they took it back over there. This showed that this place was worth taking over, right? That's how you get Deuteronomy 28:12. Well, actually, it's supposed to be Deuteronomy 28:12. But actually what you're going through, because they came over here and that was the curse, what you really finna get is Deuteronomy. One second, I'm getting a verse where he lend to you. One second.
While she getting that,
All right.
You got it?
Yeah. Deuteronomy 28:44. My bad, y'all. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. When you go to verse 43, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. So now you got Japhet coming over here to your land, over your harvest, over your fruits. And now he's over your trade. Now he's leaning to you. You're not leaning to him. And get the creator kept his word. There's still hot and cold. There's still harvest and seed time, just like he promised. But you're not over it no more. And there's even feast days. Like if you go to Deuteronomy, did you want to say something? Because I was finna go
No,
over
no,
like
no. Keep cooking. Keep cooking.
So look, y'all, it's one. Y'all keep saying we can't keep the feast days in the land, but dig this. It's one feast day, right? Well, it's one. So y'all know when you give the first fruits, right? I don't know if a lot of people go through this, but I mean, or talk about this, right? But Deuteronomy 26:1. And it shall be when thou art coming to the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance, and possesses it, and dwellest therein, thou shalt take of the first of all thy fruit of the earth, which thou shalt bring of thy land that the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shall put it in the basket, and shall go into the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name there. And thou shalt go into the priest, thou shalt be in those days, and say unto him, I profess this day unto the Lord thy God, that I am coming to the country which the Lord thy God sware unto our fathers to give us. And the priest shall take the basket out of thine hand, and set it down before the altar of the Lord thy God, and thou shalt speak and say before the Lord thy God. You supposed to say this in front of God, y'all, when you take in the fruit basket, right? A Syrian ready to perish was my father, and he went down into Egypt and sojourned there with a few, and became there a nation great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians evil entreated us and afflicted us and laid upon us hard bondage. And when we cried unto the Lord our God of our fathers, the Lord heard our voice and looked on our affliction and our labor and our oppression. And the Lord brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out an outstretched arm, and with great terribleness, and with signs and with wonders. And he hath brought us into this place, and hath given us this land, even a land flowing with milk and honey. And now behold, I have brought the first fruits of the land which thou, O Lord, hast given me. And thou shalt set it before the Lord thy God, and worship before the Lord thy God. And thou shalt rejoice in every good thing which the Lord thy God hath given unto thee, and into thine house, and the Levite and the stranger that is among you. That's actually what you're supposed to do. Like you actually supposed to come with the fruit, with what you plant, and actually say that in front of the priest. But how can you do that if you're not even over your own land no more, right? You're not even having no wisdom and knowledge of the harvest or the planting and sowing.
That's true. And even and here's the thing though. And even while we're in captivity, and we can do some kind of planning, when that harvest time come with just a little bit we got, we still should at least make an attempt to make this vow. If that makes sense.
I agree. I definitely agree.
So, and that's why it's important to remember these feast days. Because those beginning of the feast days is to remind you of you coming from out of Egypt and where the Creator took you from and brought you to. So we should be thankful and show our gratitude of thanks to the Creator. But you know what make it so bad? A lot of people is not really trying to figure out or keep up with the feast days because they don't think it's necessary, or they don't think, well, we can't keep them, like you say, we can't keep them in the poison land. But the land that's poison is you.
Yeah.
It's the people, not the land. Because remember, to prove the point, how did Israel leave the land once they inherited? How did Israel end up losing the land? The Bible says what?
When it spewed them out, the land spewed them out when they don't keep the law.
The land put you out. So is the land wicked? That he talking about the Creator gonna burn up the land? No, he's gonna destroy the people. Because the land remove you to keep the Sabbath. Now think about it. If the land got that much sense to get you off, get you up off it,
Mm-hmm.
why would the Creator destroy it? The land know, I don't need no wicked around me or on me. I'm not going to produce anything else for you. So it's not the land that's wicked. It's you. I just want to kind of bring that out because a lot of people, they don't think that they can keep the feast days in a foreign land. But the foreign land, the land is not foreign because the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. So where did the Creator put his name? Did he just put it in Jerusalem? Or is his name upon the earth? I'm going to leave that for you to think about and to ponder. You got it, sis.
All right, yeah, I kind of want to go into code because we finished start going into like the different elements for real. So I kind of want to like look at like some of this stuff might seem kind of redundant, but it all got like it's the reason behind it, right? So look at Jeremiah 18:14, right? It's just going to talk about the code. Will a man leave the snow of Lebanon, which cometh from the rock of the field? Or shall the cold flowing waters that come from another place be forsaken? Also, right? Also, because they were always talking about snow water and stuff like that, right? So if you look at Job 24:19, right? Well, Job 24:19. Drought and heat consume the snow waters. So doeth the grave those which have sinned. Drought and heat consume the snow waters. So before you have the drought and the heat, you have snow waters. Just keep that in mind. That was in the book of Job. And I know at some point he lived in the land of Luz. Again, there were snow waters. A lot of those places experienced snow waters, right? Now, keep this in mind too, right? Should I go there? All right. So just, I'll tell you what. I'll just go here, right? Because it's a story I want to tell about the king. How you know how we say that like when Israel asked for a king, that was a curse. That really was a curse. We're gonna look into that. Let's just give like a little backdrop on why it would be the curse. But before that, let's go to Joshua 3:15, right? And keep this in mind. Joshua 3:15. Joshua 3:15, right? It says, and as they bear the ark, this was Israel crossing over the Jordan, coming into the promised land, right? Bearing the ark of the covenant. So get the verse 15. And as they bear the ark were coming to the Jordan, they were coming into the Jordan, right? And the feet of the priests that bear the ark were dipped in the brim of the water. In parentheses, it has, for the Jordan overfloweth all his banks at the time of harvest. So keep that in mind. In the time of harvest, the Jordan would overflow its banks. And if you look up why, they would tell you because of all the ice and the snow melting in Lebanon after the winter months. The harvest, remember, is the gathering. That's the summer months, right? The warm months. You plant and sow in the cold months. So it would be snowy and cold in the wintertime, right? In the fall and winter, it'd be snowy and cold, and that would melt. And plus other precipitation when you got because you got the latter rain that's coming in the spring that ripens the fruits and everything during the time of Passover and the harvest, like the first fruits, right? So that precipitation mixed with the melting snow equals the banks of the Jordan being overflowed, right? Just keep that in mind. Also, you guys, if you go to, because should I do this now? Yeah. So if you go to, and let me get my notes. This is a story about when Israel asked for a king. So this is to give you a little bit of backdrop, right? Go to 1 Samuel 12 and 17. 1 Samuel 12 and 17, right? Y'all remember when Israel asked Samuel for a king. And the creator was mad, Samuel was mad, right? So you remember the part where it says, and this is 1 Samuel, is it 12:17? Yeah, 12:17. Uh, because he's talking about, this is Israel asking Samuel for the king. So I should start at verse 16. Now therefore stand and see this great thing which the Lord will do before your eyes, right? Because they had asked for a king. Verse 17. Is it not wheat harvest today? I will call unto the Lord, and he shall send thunder and rain, that you may perceive and see what your wickedness is great, which you have done in the sight of the Lord in asking you a king. So keep that in mind. He said it was wheat harvest. Wheat harvest is after barley harvest. Wheat harvest is like, if you look it up, like late June, July, right? It's in the drier months, right? Remember, the latter rain is like the spring months when everything needs to ripen, right? So wheat harvest, Samuel, because they asked for a king, Samuel asked the Creator to send thunder and rain during the wheat harvest. Verse 18. So Samuel called unto the Lord, and the Lord sent thunder and rain that day, and the people greatly feared the Lord and Samuel. Verse 19. And all the people said unto Samuel, pray for thy servants unto the Lord thy God, that we die not, for we have added unto our sins this evil to ask us a king. Why was that big that why did Samuel say in verse 17, is it not the wheat harvest day? And he asked the Creator to send thunder and rain.
Because it was harvest time.
Yeah, the wheat harvest, it wasn't common for them to have like a lot of rain and stuff doing it. That's when they're going like, the barley harvest is different from the wheat. The barley harvest is like kind of earlier spring, like kind of like near the Passover. After the Passover, when you got the first fruits and stuff, the harvest, the beginning of the harvest. The wheat harvest was later on. So during those months, for the crops they was growing during that time, they didn't need a lot of rain and stuff. So when they asked for a king as punishment, Samuel asked the Creator. Then he told them it was wheat harvest day and asked for rain and thunder. So they destroyed their crops. They actually paid for asking for a king.
Right.
That's just keeping in mind, y'all, because when it comes to like harvest and other stuff, it may not seem important, but you got to be realistic. Like in the cold, we plant, right? But in the summer and springtime, what do y'all see grow up? What do y'all see grow up, right? That's what I'm thinking now. Should I do the food or
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and do the foods.
the weather? Well,
Now you can do both if you got time. Go ahead. You got plenty of time.
so let's look at the precipitation, because I kind of want to go with some facts, right? And I'm not going to be talking trash about anybody's country. You know what I'm saying? I respect everybody, but it's just facts is facts, right? So let's get into the precipitation, right? Let's go to Psalms. Psalm. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Psalm 68 and 9. Hold on one second. Okay, it says, Thou, O God, didst send a plentiful rain, whereby thou didst confirm thine inheritance when it was weary. The inheritance was the land of milk and honey, a place well watered. So keep that in mind. When you get that rain, it confirms the inheritance. The inheritance for Israel was to be in a well watered place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah 14 and 4. These are just descriptions. Jeremiah 14 and 4. So the nobles, when you start at verse 3, the nobles and the little ones have sent I started verse 3, and the nobles have sent their little ones to the waters. They came to the pits and found no water. They returned with their vessels empty. They were ashamed and confounded and covered their heads, because the ground is chapped, for there was no rain in the earth. The plowmen were ashamed. They covered their heads. So the plowmen who are planting and growing seeds, right? If the ground is chapped, there's no rain. It can't grow, right? Keep that in mind. Jeremiah 14:22. If you go down, it says, Are there any among the vanities of the Gentiles that can cause rain, or can give heavens, or can the heavens give showers? Are not thou he, O Lord our God? Therefore we will wait upon thee that has made all these things, right? So the reason I'm bringing up precipitation, y'all, is because the promised land, in this land where this is taking place, it's gonna be a well-watered land. It's gonna be a well-watered land, a land of milk and it's a well-watered land, a land of milk and honey, right? So if you go to, I'll say Ecclesiastes 1:7, right? If you go to Ecclesiastes 1:7, it says, all the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. This place is full of rivers that connect in the sea. You have a well-watered place, right? That matters, y'all, because you're talking about a place full of rain. Hey, can y'all hold on 1 second, please? Hold on one second. I'm sorry, 1 second.
Nah, go ahead. So why she's doing what she's doing? I hope y'all taking the information in, because she's putting out some information that describes the old world, and all you have to do is compare the old with the information that she's giving you, and see which way the pendulum swing. Is it swinging over here to America, or is it swinging over there into Eurasia? So you have to make that determination, but she's putting out the information, so you have to now do your research. But go ahead, sis, you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you good.
So y'all pretty much get the drift. I was trying to give y'all the scriptures to show y'all that this place is well watered, right? So again, I'm not trying to disrespect nobody else's country, but the facts is just facts, right? So when it comes to rain, y'all, they saying the promised land is over there. Let's look into it. Let's look into Africa, and let's look into the Middle East, right? When you look this stuff up, and don't forget that scripture I gave y'all in the beginning. What was it? Remember I told y'all Deuteronomy 8 and 9. There will be no scarceness of bread. It shall not lack anything. It ain't gonna be no scarceness of water, nothing over here, y'all. It's gonna be well watered and everything. So keep that word scarceness in mind, right? When it comes to rainfall, I'll just say this. I'll go into these, right? When it goes to rainfall, for one, the Middle East is generally known for its hot and dry climate, with a predominantly arid and semi-arid environment, and has experienced varying rainfall patterns, right? And then it's going into Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, the Jordan. It goes into Syria, Israel. It goes all of those, right? It goes into all of those. But look at what it says. It's this one particular thing that it says that jumps out at me, right? It says, wait, let me go to this one particular one. It says, in conclusion, the Middle East is generally known for its arid climate. Rainfall patterns vary across the region and are influenced by factors like location, topography, and seasonal changes. Climate change is exacerbating and challenges related to water scarcity, making it crucial for countries to adopt sustainable water management practices, invest in climate adaptation strategies, right? They have water scarcity over there. Like water is scarce over there, so much so it says by 2050 every single country in the Middle East and North Africa will live under extremely high water stress, right? So much so it says the Middle East and North Africa, y'all know they say North Africa is where Egypt and Israel and all that stuff is, right? But it says the Middle East and North Africa is the world's most water scarce region. They're the highest group in the world.
Right, so that means they don't really have that much water.
No, They don't have no water. It says rainfall. It says it could be sparse in Africa. I mean, Egypt. Egypt is like really. I'm trying to get the information I got on Egypt. But look, they have like, cause they'll tell you, they'll be like, man, y'all can't believe what y'all see on TV about Africa. They got nice places. They do got nice places. I mean, the Creator blessed everybody. You know, they do got a landmass. But the water there, you have to find it. Because it's not like the United States or North and South America where the whole continent is well watered, right? You have to go to certain places. Like they have this thing in Africa called the rain belt. And it moves across the sub-Saharan Africa by August. And it goes into certain places. And then they have in Nigeria this thing called the rainforest belt, where it's like certain places in Nigeria. I think the southern part, certain places of them get water, right? They're well watered. But that's how scarce water is over there to where you can about name the places where they do get water, right? Um,
Well, that's true because if you watch the Animal Channel, just to kind of concrete what you're saying, at certain times of the year, the animals have to migrate to find water.
yeah.
So just keep that in mind of what the sisters just put out. That even if you watch the Animal Channel during certain times of the season, the animals has to migrate to be able to find water in order to drink, or they have to wait for a particular time of the season for it to rain good in order to create those streams that used to be there, but it dried up. So every so often, it'll rain. Not every day or every month. It's I don't forget how many times a year it will rain and flood, and then after a certain period of time, that water dry up. You got it, sis.
But look at how I say water scarcity, right? And then again, keep in mind Deuteronomy 8 and 9. What did he say about the land? Because they're talking about water scarcity, right? They're using the word scarce. But Deuteronomy 8 and 9, it says a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness. Thou shalt not lack anything in it. A land whose stones are iron and out of whose hills thou mayest dig grass. You're not going to be having those scarcities and no kind of lacking of water or lacking of anything. Even to this day, after all the people have come over here and all the tearing down they done this continent, we still are well watered, right? We still have water all around us. Um, Again, y'all, let's look into. I think I want to save snow because I want to use snow to go into the animals, right? But even when it comes down to hail in the Middle East, right? Even when it comes down to hail in the Middle East. One second. I'm actually pulling up the I'm just trying to pull up the articles I got saved to my computer and read them off. But when you even look up hail in the Middle East, right? Hail is not very common in the Middle East. I mean, they have hail during like a bad thunderstorm, but it's not like here, right? Because hail is a form of precipitation. That's why if you go to Psalms, like let's say Psalms 78:47, it says, he destroyed their vines with hail and their sycamore trees with frost. Hail was always like a form of punishment. And when it comes to hail, places like the United States are like kind of leading when it comes to hail. I'm not even going to go into that with hail because I wanted to get into the animals. But I just too want to go into the whirlwind, right? And because we is pressed for time, I'm just going to kind of give like a few. If you go into the whirlwind, right? What's a whirlwind? Go to Job 37 and 9, right? Job 37 and 9. It says, out of the south cometh the whirlwind, and cold out of the north. That sounds like the United States. The tornadoes in the south and southwest, and the cold come from the north and the northwest. Um, and how do we know they talking about a tornado? Well, how do they describe it? Isaiah 5 and 28, right? Isaiah 5 and 28. It says, whose arrows are sharp and their bows bent. Their horses' hooves shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. Their wheels. A whirlwind goes in circles, so you know it's talking about a tornado, right? If you go to Isaiah 41 and 16. Again, that's Isaiah 41 and 16. It says, Thou shalt fan them, and the wind shall carry them away, and the whirlwind shall scatter them, and thou shalt rejoice in the Lord, and shall glory in the Holy One of Israel, right? But it's talking, that's allegorical, but it's still describing a whirlwind as something that scatters and takes you away, right? If you go to Ezekiel 1 and 4. Ezekiel, and this is important, you guys, because Ezekiel 1 and 4, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, and out of the midst of it, the fire. He wasn't talking about a regular whirlwind, but just pay attention that he said a great cloud coming. So they already described it. It goes in circles like a wheel. It's the cloud, and it scatters. That's a tornado, right? If you go to Nahum 1 and 3, right? Nahum 1 and 3. It says, the Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. The Lord hath his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. So the clouds are the dust of his feet. He has his way in the whirlwinds. The whirlwind's a storm, right? That matters. Why am I bringing up whirlwinds? Because they don't really have tornadoes over there in the Middle East. They don't have tornadoes over there. They have things called dust devils, right? That wouldn't be the same thing.
Do they have tornadoes in Africa?
That's what I'm getting. I'm trying. My stuff out scattered all over. I think this is it right here. Hold on. Tornadoes occur most frequently in the Great Plains region of the United States, specifically area known as Tornado Alley. Wait a minute, because I don't think that it really. I looked it up. It says tornadoes do occur in extreme southern Africa. So in extreme South Africa, they have tornadoes. But where is all the? But they keep talking about tornadoes all through the Bible. And in the Southwest United States, out there where the Promised Land would be, they are known for tornadoes, right? Yeah, it says the country.
It's Tornado Alley. That's right. Oklahoma.
Yeah,
and all that. Yeah.
It says the country with the most tornadoes is the United States. And then when you look at the top people, it says the United States, Canada, Argentina, Bangladesh, Europe, Australia. Again, you have certain places over there, but and then South Africa is like at the bottom of the list, but not even the Middle East. They have dust devils. That's not the same. That's like sandstorms. Whirlwinds in the Middle East are often associated with strong winds like the Shamal and Kamshin, as well as dust devils and haboobs. This phenomenon can range from small dust devils to large destructive dust storms. See, they have dust storms. It's not the same. Those aren't the same as the whirlwinds they're talking about in the Bible. And when it talks about in hell, it says, for us, the Middle East, hailstorms are not unheard of, although less common than any other forms of precipitation like rain. Hailstorms are not unusual, particularly in some parts of the Middle East, such as Syria, Palestine, and occasionally Egypt. So they don't really have hail forms and strong thunderstorms with intense updrafts that carry raindrops into very cold parts of the atmosphere, causing them to freeze. These conditions are met in some areas of the Middle East, despite the overall warm climate. They don't really have, and I want to say this, y'all, when it comes to hailstones, it's so rare that in early November 2024, a significant hailstorm in the Al Jouf region of Saudi Arabia was widely reported, with some mistaking the hail for snow. No, they couldn't even tell the hail from snow. That's just how rare both of them is over there, right? Now, that's what I was saving, y'all, the snow, because I wanted to get into the animals, right? So, again, we talked about the snow in Lebanon, right? Psalms 147:16. Keep this in mind, y'all. Psalms 147:16. It says, he giveth snow like wool. He scattered the hoarfrost like ashes. The Creator was just giving out snow in the promised land, right? In this landmass. Snow is common. It's not uncommon. He just gives it out, right? Proverbs 25:13. It says, Proverbs 25:13. As the cold of snow in the time of harvest, again, is a faithful messenger to them that send him, for he refreshes the soul of his masters. Yeah, snow in the harvest in the summertime would be refreshing, right?
That's right.
Um, Job 37:6, right? Job 37:6. For he said to the snow, be thou on the earth, likewise to the small rain, and to the great rain of his strength. Again, it was nothing for them to have snow. If you go to Job 6:16, right? Job 6:16, he says, my brother have dealt deceitfully as a brook, as the stream of brooks they pass away, which are blackish by reason of the ice, wherein the snow is hid. Everybody know black ice is under snow. Where are these kind of conditions happening over there for them to be talking about these things? Like, why would they not? They're describing their environment. When they're writing the Bible, when they're writing these things, they're describing their environment. Why would they be describing an environment on a whole nother continent? These are things they seen around them. It was common snow, right? Now, when they go to the snow, I'm gonna like Jeremiah 18:14, right? Jeremiah 18:14. Will a man leave the snow of Lebanon which cometh from the rock of the field, or shall the cold flowing waters that come from another place be forsaken? And I want you to keep that in mind, right? Because then let's go to 2 Samuel 23:20, because we're gonna get into the animals, right? From snow. 2 Samuel 23:20. It says, and Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man of Kabzeel, who had done many acts, he slew 2 lion-like men of Moab. He went down also and slew a lion in the midst of a pit in a time of snow. Now keep that in mind, y'all. It says a lion in the midst of a pit in a time of snow. If you Google, they would tell you that lions aren't in the snow. Right? And actually, if you look up lions in the snow, it says lions who live in the snow. If you go to Google, it'll say no, lions do not naturally live in snowy environments. While some lion populations have historically lived in colder regions with occasional snow, they are primarily adapted to the warmer climates like savannas and grasslands. So it's telling you that lions have to be in open, hot fields, right? So when you read the Bible and they keep talking about a lion, think about it, y'all. They done made the Lion King. Think about how much money they made off the lion. They made the Lion King, and they tied that to Africa. And when you think of the lion, you think of Africa, which they do have lions in Africa, right? But what are the biblical lions that they speak of, right? Again, what's the lion in the snow, in a pit in a time of snow? That's a cougar. That's a mountain lion.
Right.
I don't know. I don't have the picture to pull up, but I do have the picture right here. But I mean, if you guys Google it, a mountain lion and a cougar or a puma are the only animals that live in the snow.
That's
And
right.
guess where they're found at? It says the cougar, also called the puma, the mountain lion, the catamount, and the panther, is a large cat native to the Americas. It's native to the Americas, y'all. It inhabits North, Central, and South America, making it the most widely distributed wild terrestrial mammal in the Western Hemisphere. The mountain lion, the puma, they don't got them over there, but them the only lions that have the fur and the capabilities of living in the snow. It actually says they thrive in the snow. They're most active in the winter. So who was the snow what was the lion that was killed? It says verse 20, 2 Samuel 23 and 20. I go to the second part of the verse, right? He went down also and slew a lion in the midst of a pit in the time of snow. That's in America, y'all. They talking about a mountain lion, a cougar. So when y'all was reading them talking about the lions in the Bible, they weren't talking about the lions out the Lion King in Africa. They were talking about the cougar, the Black Panther of America. That's where Wakanda come from. Y'all know that was a black indigenous warrior, right? That wasn't African. Wakanda was native to America.
Mm-hmm.
What about because we push for time, I just go to the bear. What about bears, y'all? Because let's go to 1 Samuel 17:37. 1 Samuel 17:37. It says, David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. That was when David was when he was going to fight Goliath, right? But he said he was delivered out of the paw of a bear. Well, let's back that up. 2 Samuel 17 and 8, right? It says, actually go to Proverbs 17:12. Proverbs 17 and 12, right? It says, let a bear robbed of her whelps meet a man rather than a fool in his folly. Why would they write that? Why would they be writing about bears? And that's important, y'all, right? What about in Isaiah? Because there's some future time prophecy about bears. What about Isaiah 11 and 7? Isaiah 11 and 7 says, and the cow and the bear shall feed their young ones, shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the fox. And the suckling child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice's den. That's talking about the gathering. They're talking about a bear. That matters, right? Why does bears matter? Bears matter because they don't even got bears over there, y'all. They ain't got no bears over there. Matter of fact, they got one kind of bear over there. It's called the Syrian brown bear.
But
and it's the smallest.
Isn't that extinct?
Well, that's in Israel. They consider to be extinct. They said they ain't got no bears. Palestine is extinct. It says the Syrian brown bear is the smallest subspecies of brown bear and is generally found in mountainous areas with forests. And the video shows, okay. So, yeah, they don't have nothing but that one bear over there, the Syrian bear. That's it. It says, while the Middle East is not known for a large bear population, brown bears, specifically the Syrian brown bear, do inhabit certain areas. These bears are found in mountainous regions of Turkey, Iraq, Iran, Turkmenistan. They are considered extinct or nearly extinct in Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Palestine. Or either they were never there.
That's right.
That's bears, y'all. What about apes? No. Well, let's talk about, let's get them their credit. What they do have? They got some stuff over there. What is native over there? Let's look at what's native over there. If you go to 1 Kings 10 and 22, right? 1 Kings 10 and 22. It says, for the king had a stay at the navy of Tarshish. This is Tarshish, y'all. This talking about Japhet. This over there in Europe. It says, for the king had a sea at a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years, the navy of Tarshish bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So Tarshish, Japhet from Europe, they brought apes over here. So King Solomon seated all the kings of the earth. They brought apes to King Solomon. because Solomon didn't have apes over here. And when you look up apes, apes are native to Africa. Right here, apes are a super family of old world simian. They said they're old world, right? Simians native to sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. Apes are more closely related to the old world. They say that's the old world. That's not the old world. That's the new world, right? Monkeys then to the new world. They're trying to say that this is the new world over here. But the monkeys come from over there. We didn't have monkeys over here. That's what let you know that Tarshish and all that stuff is over there on that landmass. And they were bringing it and trading. Don't forget Tarshish was trading with Tyre, right? So past the apes, y'all, what about the turtles, right? Go to Songs of Solomon 2 and 12. People don't really talk about the turtles, but they say this turtle island in America, right?
That's
So
right.
Songs of Solomon 2 and 12, it says the flowers appear on the earth. The earth, what is the earth? The ground, the dirt, right? The time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. It said the turtle is heard in the land. You can hear the turtle. They make turtle noises, right? But would you know that over there, they don't have no land turtles. They have sea turtles. They got a bunch of sea turtles, but they don't really have no land turtles, right? And when it comes to the turtles, I'll just pull up this right here. It says, yes, several species of sea turtles inhabit the waters of the Middle East, with the Arabian Gulf, the Persian Gulf, and the Red Sea being particularly important inhabitants. Green turtles forage in seagrass beds. See, their turtles are out there near the waters. How you gonna be hearing them? You're gonna be out there in the ocean. You must gonna be scuba diving, right? They don't really have no land turtles right there, right? It says among the Middle East, many fascinating inhabitants are the thousands of sea turtles that roam the region's waters. They have sea turtles, so you're not gonna hear their turtles, right? But when it comes to turtles, when it comes to land turtles, I'm trying to look through my notes, y'all.
Take your time. You good?
Cause I think America. I mean, I got it, and it's like I got all my stuff. I think America, if you look it up, is like one of the countries that lead like in turtles. I don't know. I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. Well, no, I found it, y'all. It says which continent has the most turtles? It says where do turtles live? There are more than 350 species of turtles living on land in all the continents on Earth except Antarctica, right? And in both saltwater and freshwater. The greatest number of species occur in southeastern North America and in South Asia. And then they're gonna be like, well, you know, we Afro-Asiatic. No. Most of the turtles, you just seen the places over there y'all call the Holy Land, just got sea turtles. Y'all ain't really got no land turtles. Most of the land turtle stuff.
I was about to say those turtles in Asia got slanted eyes.
Yeah. You crazy, yeah. They mostly got sea turtles, right? Then what about horses, y'all? This is the last animal I'm gonna go through, right? What about horses? Right? What about Exodus? Y'all know there's plenty of scriptures. It talks about horses all through the Bible. Exodus 14, right? Exodus 14 and 9. It says, but the Egyptians pursued after them, and the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them, encamping by the sea beside Beerathroth before Belzephon, right? There were always a lot of horses all through the Bible. Second Chronicles, especially in Egypt. Second Chronicles 9:28. I know they horses is thirsty over there. If they got some over there in that Egypt. Second Chronicles 9:28, right? Second Chronicles 9:28, it says, and they brought unto Solomon horses out of Egypt and out of all lands. They were known for having horses over there, right? But what's crazy is that if you look up horses, right? Now this was so crazy, y'all. Look up horses and see what it tell y'all. It's gonna tell y'all that. I'm trying to find it right here. It says that horses It says horses in the United States have a long and complex history in North America, evolving here millions of years ago, going extinct, and then returning with European colonizers. So it says horses originated in North America. They're telling y'all that the horse originated in North America, but they say it went extinct. But it said it came back with the Europeans.
How is that?
I mean,
Are they telling you they stole your stuff?
that's what it sounds like. Because it does say, look, it do say, y'all, it said horses returned to the continent with the Spanish conquistadors, starting with Columbus in 1493. So Christopher Columbus brought the horses back to America, right? It says Spanish horses, including those brought by Herman Cortez in 1519, became the ancestors of the Mustangs and other pharaoh horses. So it says North Americans played a key role in the spreading horses across the continent through trade and capture. So horses apparently originated in North America, went extinct, but Christopher Columbus brought them back over here. Now, with that being said, y'all go to Ezekiel 27:14. Don't forget what we went over. Ezekiel 27:14. Keep this in mind, right? When they tell you the history. And keep this in mind. Ezekiel 27:14 is talking about Tyre, the Canaanites traded, right? It says, verse 14. They had a house of Tagarma traded in the affairs with horses and horsemen and mules. They were already trading horses and horsemen, Tyre the Canaanites, with Japhet. But it's telling you here that the horses started in America, but they went extinct. But Japhet brought them over here to you. What is that saying?
And real quick, I just want to pull this up right here. Give me 1 second. Look where they say these horses at. These wild horses. For some reason, they're in Utah. Just roaming free. Elusive. It says, herds of wild horses are elusive unless you know where to look. So how, if these animals is not from here, how do they know where to hide? And these are stallions and etc. Full breed blood horses that roams over there where they call the promised land. But I digress. I just wanted to bring that out because you got a bunch of horses. I'm talking about wild horses that just roam free. And how they get there? I guess those are the ones that Cortez brought back and just left them. You got them, sis.
Well, we finna close out, y'all. I just wanted to kind of, because, I wanted to give the different verses just to let the Bible describe what these things were, right? So you can get the sense when you see this stuff in the Bible, what is it talking about, right? I wanted to kind of end off talking about the food. What they call the 7 spices of the land, 2 grains and 5 fruits. That's what they say, right? And of course, yeah, so we're just gonna leave off with that because corn is a biggie. So Genesis 27:28, right? It says, therefore God give thee the dew of heaven and the fatness of earth and plenty of corn and wine. Because without the dew of heaven, without that rain, you ain't gonna be having like the fatness of earth, right? You're not gonna be having corn and wine. Genesis 41. Don't forget, Genesis 41 tells you about Pharaoh's dream that Joseph was able to interpret, right? We don't have to go into that, but if y'all read that, that was the dream Pharaoh had. But I just read a little bit of it, right? So, and it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat flesh, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, there came up out of the river, well, I go to verse 3. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean flesh, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean flesh kine did eat up the 7 well-favored fat kine. So Pharaoh wrote, and he slept and drank the second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. Come on, with it describing so detailed of this, y'all. Y'all know they talking about cornfields. I mean, don't let them people fool you and tell y'all they're talking about anything else, right? They're talking about corn. If you go to, let's say, Genesis 42 and 2, well, Genesis 42 and 1. Now, when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do you look one upon another? Because there was a famine in the land of Canaan, right? And that's what led Jacob and the Israelites going down into Egypt, right? There was a famine. And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. That jumps out to me, because that was the role Egypt always played. There was always corn in Egypt. It was something about Egypt, right? It was the place known for corn. Exodus 22 and 6. Look at the way it's describing the corn, right? Exodus 22 and 6. And if a fire break out and catch in thorns, so that the stacks of corn or the standing corn or the fields be consumed therewith, he that kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. That's talking about cornfields and the fire breaking out. Read about Deuteronomy 7 and 13, right? Deuteronomy 7 and 13. It says, and he will love thee and bless thee and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb and the fruit of thy land, thy corn and thy wine, and thy oil, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep in the land in which he sware unto thy fathers to give thee. What about Deuteronomy 11 and 14? Because we were just talking about the latter rain, right? Deuteronomy 11 and 14. Well, Deuteronomy 11, 13, start there. And it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I would give you the rain of your land in its due season. See, it's talking about the due seasons. What's the due season? The first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thy oil. Because keep that in mind. You have to have your rain in due season. We talked about the former rain. The former rain is in the fall. The latter rain is in the spring, right? And he says you have to have the rain to gather in your corn. But we just read that Egypt, like now when you look over there, it says Egypt is supposed to be like the driest place over there, right? Egypt is like one of the driest, most water scarce places in the world, if not the most. I just kind of right now don't want to throw myself away. So I just found it. The article, it says Egypt water supply. So its water supply relies heavily on the Nile River. And that provides approximately 97% of the country's renewable water resources. So they're relying strictly on the Nile, right? And the Nile has nothing on the Mississippi. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it says Egypt is facing a significant water deficit, estimated at around 7 billion cubic meters per year. And this deficit is projected to worsen in the coming years due to population growth. So basically, and then y'all, if y'all look up Egypt when it comes to corn, it said it's talking about how it was biblically known for corn, but I don't think it's like that. Well, like right now today in maize, even with maize, y'all, I'm kind of. So let me just kind of get into that, right? I'm just gonna backtrack all that. Let's go to mm, corn, right? So it says, I'm just reading you this backdrop. Maize spread to the rest of the world because of its ability to grow in diverse climates, right? It was cultivated in Spain just a few decades after Columbus' voyages, and then spread to Italy, West Africa, Philippines, and elsewhere. Because West Africa is becoming one of the world's leading people in corn. They still behind the United States, right? But they didn't get corn over there, and they didn't get the grain and all that stuff it takes to grow corn. Because when they tell you it's grain, corn meal is grain. It makes a lot of stuff. It makes grits, cornmeal. I mean, a lot of stuff is made out of corn, right? But when it's telling you that, just know that they didn't get corn over there until Christopher Columbus took it over there. Keep
Right.
that in mind. Canaan was in Ezekiel 37. We read Canaan was trading with Tarshish, right? And yeah, Ezekiel 37. What is Ezekiel 27? I'm sorry, Ezekiel 27 and what 14? Ezekiel 27. Yeah, Javan and Tubal and Meshach, they were in that markets. They traded the purses of men and vessel brass in that market. Um, Matter of fact, I looked up the seed of Sihor, right? It says, and by great waters, the seed of Sihor, the harvest of the river is her revenue, and she is a mart of all nations. That's in Isaiah 23. I'm sorry. Because it says, be still, you inhabitants of the isle, thou whom the merchants of Zidon, that's the Canaanites, that pass over the sea have replenished. So Zidon was coming from this land, y'all, taking corn, because it's talking about the seed of Sihor. Sihor is before Egypt. That's corn there. He was taking the grains of corn and taking it back over there to Tarshish. Like they've been trading with them, right? Because verse 1 says, the burden of Tyre, how ye ships of Tarshish, for it is laid waste. For there is no house, no entering in for the land of Shittim. It is rebuilt to them. So Tyre, Canaanites were taking the seed of Sihor, corn, which is before Egypt, and they were taking it back and forth to Tarshish, to Japhet. So now Japhet is dwelling in your tents and they over your trade. But they been knew what you had over here. Because the Canaanites, the people the creator told you to take out. That's why they were thorn in your side. They've been taking the best of the resources, the best of what you have over here. That's why I don't care. That story about the horses got the Canaanites written all over it. I feel like I don't want to falsely accuse. I feel like they have a lot to do with that because they were trading horses with Tarshish, and you know that they were on the promised land. And again, if you look at the way it's describing you guys, it's describing America as being the promised land. I mean, I don't know if y'all been kind of looking at all this, but that one means the Canaanites that were here were taking your horses and your corn back and forth over there to Europe, to Japhet. And they went through famines. Remember we just went over the great famine they went through in the 1300s? So they went through a famine. The Creator told you in Deuteronomy 28 that he was going to send a country in hunger and thirst of all things. So he put them through a famine, got them real hungry and thirsty, and sent them over here to you. And they got your land because you broke the laws and commandments. And don't forget, that's Paul. That's the captivity that we read into with Paul too. Don't forget, he's talking about being a partaker of the root and the fruit. What do we say about the harvest? Japhet is over your land. They dwelling in your tents. You can't even harvest anymore. You don't even know about the harvest or the plotting or the plowing or the planting because Japhet is completely in control of that now. Keep in mind what we went over last week. These people of the land were ruddy. They had locks, hair, wool. Put all that together today, Juneteenth, right? Are you really free? Because how many of you got anything to gather right now? It's the gathering months of the harvest. Who really had anything to gather, right?
Nobody.
It's a lot of verses I could just keep, going into, but I'm gonna kind of let it rest right there, y'all. Because again, I could just all day take you into all the scriptures that show where it's talking about the harvest, where it's talking about cold, where it's talking about corn. We just talked about Tyree. You read what they said about the horses. Where's the true promised land? Where are the bears over there? Why did they bring Solomon on the promised land apes?
Where's the
you
land?
would think that's something.
Where's the land of water?
Yeah, where's the land of water? Because it definitely ain't over there. Remember, he told you you don't have to lack anything and no scarceness of bread. In that land, it's well watered. But we've been reading they have severe water problems over there, and I mean severe water problems. Severe. And if you talk to a lot of people that do move to Africa, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but a lot of those people, even that guy, what's that guy named? The Hebrews and Negroes. I forgot his name.
Let me pull him up real quick.
He had moved to Africa, y'all, and he was talking to, he did like a little video and an interview from over there, and he was showing his house and stuff over there in Africa and stuff like that. He was trying to convince the Americans to move to Africa. And when they got to the water, he showed that, okay, they got access to water, but it's not easy like you and I can just go outside and get water. Or just to go, to the water house and cut water.
Ronald Dalton Jr.
Yeah, that's him. If you look up him over there in Africa, like they actually had to go through things to get water. They got to travel, even when they say they got a good life over there. But keep in mind, we did go through. They do got certain regions, like because I don't need nobody coming at me. Well, they got this region, that region. Because I feel like, look, if you can count and point out all the regions where y'all got water in that big behind continent, that's how you know y'all don't have water. Because I couldn't even dream of describing all the water in the Americas. And that's our praise to the Creator for that.
But why do they have to convince us to go there? that if you really think about it, if somebody's trying to convince you, that means your spirit is not there.
Right.
For some reason, the Negro stuck to America. They claim they come from Africa, but they stuck here in America, ain't it? Ain't no Negro trying to go back. Ain't no Negro trying to go to Africa. And if they do go, they come right back here.
They get kicked out.
I mean, is the Africans welcoming the Americans?
Not from what I heard. I've been hearing they be getting kicked out. I've been hearing that they go over there and move, and I think it'd be okay at first. But they always end up coming back, or it's always something happen. They get distorted. They feel unwelcome. They end up not liking the lifestyle like that. They realize that they truly not Africans. They realize they truly not African.
So they have to go all the way over there. They have to go all the way over there to find out.
Yep. Can I show like one more verse, y'all?
Go ahead.
I just think it's kind of cool. Y'all know, if y'all look it up, or if y'all was in school, you remember in school how they show like the water cycle, and they show the different steps of the water cycle, the water vapors ascending up from, from the water from the lakes and oceans and rivers going into the clouds and then coming back down again. And they talk about condensation and all that, But the Bible kind of, scientists are swear now they discover something, and it's really stuff that was already declared in from the beginning by the Creator. If you go to Psalms 135 and 7, right? Psalms 135 and 7, it says, I start at verse 6. Whatsoever the Lord pleased, that did he in heaven and earth, in the seas and all the deep places. Whatsoever he did, y'all, that's his word. That was his desire. Verse 7. He causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. Ascend means to go up. He maketh lightness for the rain. He bringeth the wind out of his treasures. So why would the vapors be going up, right? That kind of sounds like the water cycle. Then when you go to Job 36 and 27, Job 36 and 27, it says, for he maketh small the drops of water, they pour down rain according to the vapor thereof, which the clouds do drop and distill upon man abundantly. So in a nutshell, when they put it together, they be describing the water cycle too. I mean, just keep that in mind, because like I said, this matters, because when you read the Bible, these people are describing what they see. And they telling you like they begging you. Like the creator says, you have eyes to see and ears to hear, but your heart is rash, you can't understand. Like they're telling you a mountain, they're telling you that he slew a lion in the time of a snow in a pit. And then they tell you, yeah, but the mountain, that the lions over there, they in the savannas in the hot weather. They can't survive in the cold. So then your common sense to kick in and be like, well, what lions are in the cold in the pit? Oh, those are mountain lions, pumas, cougars. That's American animals. Like these people that wrote the Bible, they were begging you. They were recording their life, and they was begging you to believe them, to see. Like they were giving you a first in-depth look at their life, of what was going on around them. But you don't care. Either you don't care, or you're just not. I mean, you're not seeing it, or either you're not being diligent enough to like actually go into it. When they talk about corn, don't let them fool you. They're not talking about no, yes, a cereal grain and all that. Wheat is a cereal grain, cool. But it was over here. It was the reason why corn was started in America, right? Even when they talk about the horses, when it talks about the turtles, this is Turtle Island. So they say America, right? Where you can hear the turtles, because we have turtles on land. What about the harvest? Do it look like they got a harvest over there, y'all? When I think of a harvest, I think of like pumpkins and stuff like that. I think of like a field full of stuff, like where I'm at, like fields full of standing corn trees, about tallest houses and stuff like that. Think about what you see around you. Do you think it's like that for them over there? If it is, it's forced. Like they told you, Christopher Columbus came over here and took corn and took it over there to Africa and those places. So now they do grow corn, but that's forced. But that's your history. Jacoby talking about it, the corn god, they gone. The Canaanites, that's over here. They got statues about corn. That's over here. And then they'll tell you that's not here. They just want you to be stupid so bad. Like, make it hard for them. Don't make it so easy for them when they want you to be stupid. What about bears? Y'all know we keep bears. Like, shoot, sometimes I be driving down the street, bears run out in the middle of the road. We keep bears. We know that. We got bears over here for days. They don't got no bears over there. And they got them real bears out west too, like them grizzly bears. Like, yeah. So
over on the east we have black bears.
Yeah, we got a little play. I think they say you can run or try to fight them back.
Yeah, but the grizzly bear, you better leave that alone.
Yeah, grizzly bear, yeah. And then the polar bears worst of all, but we don't have them. That's Antarctica stuff like that, allegedly, right? But yeah, the grizzly bears out west in the United States. And that's when the places are known for bears, mountain lions. If y'all ever get a chance, take a trip out there and actually see. Like, try to visit and see. That stuff is real. The geysers where the water shoot up out the rocks. That stuff is in the United States. It's for real. The tallest trees, the cedar trees in the world, the most majestic, royal, the greatest cedar trees of all time in the world is right here in the United States on the West Coast. What about precipitation? We get it all. We get the snow, the different forms of precipitation, rain, hail, snow, right? Sleet. We get all that over here.
Mm-hmm.
We get the different seasons. We get the harvest, y'all. We the ones that be planting and sowing in the winter and it rain here. And then we get our latter rain. Y'all know when it comes springtime, it be raining a lot. And that's where your plums and all your corn and all your stuff growing up, that's here. Why you think you don't want to go over there? Like your code was just saying. But why you think they want to come over here?
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll tell you, oh, Africa is way better than what it look on TV. Yeah, every place is. They're always gonna just show you the bad parts. The Africa got nice parts, but I'm just saying it ain't what this book describing though. It's not what the Promised Land is describing.
Right.
And it's, I mean, I don't know. I think that it's Juneteenth. Like the slaves supposed to be free, but they not free. They enslaved mentally. Because really you're not free because you don't even you don't have access. How can you keep the harvest and the first fruits? How can you do all that? You don't have access to none of that stuff. Because they'll tell you that this whole continent is Babylon, it's gonna be destroyed. Why would he destroy the best land on earth? And he keeps his eye on this place.
But they always think that they listen to the doctrine of people talking about America gonna be destroyed. That's doctrine.
Yeah. He got to get the trotters from off of it, the people that's trotting out on the land, and bring the outcasts out and assemble them back on the land. Things that has to happen. But even when you look out west, like the Grand Canyon and them, you could tell like it was water out there. You could tell what it was. It fits the description of the Promised Land. It's
Right.
desolate right now, you know.
Right.
I know y'all that tonight's lesson, you probably like, what did she just do? She just took it through a bunch of different. I was just teaching so that when y'all look through the Bible, when you see those words, corn, harvest, and all that stuff, think about America. Think about your life here. Don't ignore what's right there, and you're looking all the way on the other side of the world.
Right. Because they always want to detach you from your habitation, but everybody's running to your habitation to live in your habitation. They ain't never stopped. They at full-fledged now, coming to where you live. But notice you're not going nowhere. But they're flooding your zones at where you live, which is your communities.
Mm-hmm.
So we better pay attention. Pay attention to the play. They got you wanting to go to Africa, but guess what? A lot of Africans coming here. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out. So you done for tonight?
Yeah, because I was gonna keep continuing to take y'all to different verses to show code and whatever, but you get it. Like everybody need to be looking into the harvest and the gathering. When it's cold, you plant, you sow, and you gather, and you reap in the harvest. But we got to make sure we get that back, y'all.
Right.
Like just think, when you driving down the street and you riding past all these fields, that's your harvest. You're supposed to call to mind Deuteronomy 30. When you driving past the field, I automatically think like, dog, why we ain't got control over that no more? Who controls that now? Why it's not us? You're not supposed to ride by that field and be like, oh, them people mind their business, let me mind mine. Well, that's nice. That's a nice field out there. No, you're supposed to actually call to mind where your field at.
Right. Right.
It's Juneteenth, y'all. Free your mind.
That's right. That's right. So we're gonna leave it here for tonight. I'm gonna be on Saturday, so I'm not gonna have anything tomorrow night. So be looking for me on Saturday. I'll send out the link as usual. And plus Sunday, Sister Latorya is supposed to be in a conversation with Brother Ash. That's Brother Isaiah and them group. In fact, he sent me the conversation. What the conversation gonna be about is is Christ the Messiah prophesied in the scriptures? That's what they're going to be talking about. Is Christ the Messiah prophesied in the scriptures? So that's what they're going to be talking about on Sunday evening. Be paying attention to, be on the lookout for that one, because it's going to be an interesting conversation. They're going to have to explain why they come up with this verse, and they're going to have to go from tit for tat. And they're going to have to go in and prove what they're saying. It's not just somebody just saying this and saying that. They're going to have to prove what they're saying. So also, I'm trying to get another conversation channeled up. And we just stay tuned for that one. But I will not be on tomorrow night. I will be on Saturday due to my work schedule. So we'll be picking back up on Saturday, and we'll be back on Sunday for the conversation between Brother Ash and Sister Latorya G. So until then, family, stay tuned. In the Creator's will, we'll see y'all back on the Shabbat as it ends. Peace.
Peace. Shalom.